To break even means to cover your costs. You can calculate the level of activity that you need to maintain to break even really, really easily. It's just a formula. Don't be confused, though, or surprised if interpreting when you break even is a little bit more of a complicated task. You can see that, what I'm suggesting, in this particular scenario. Let's look. Global Freightways is considering the purchase of a new airplane to fly between Tokyo Narita and Singapore Changi Airport at a distance of, oh interesting, 2,869 nautical miles. Okay, Global Freightways is evaluating two models. Okay, so there's two options here. A Boeing 747-400, which can safely carry 124 tons of freight. Okay, interesting. Or a slightly smaller Boeing 777 with an effective capacity of 104 tons. Costs associated with each. Oh, right. With break-even analysis, we need to know if there are any fixed costs associated with the option. We can see that the Boeing 747 has a fixed monthly debt payment of $1,367,000, and that, okay, the Boeing 777, even though it is smaller, do you notice that with the debt payment, it's actually more expensive. Oh, okay, and debt payments are classic examples of FC, fixed costs, because once you go and decide to buy a Boeing 747, it doesn't matter whether you succeed in using it for anything or not, you're still going to have to pay the debt payment on it. Now, there's actually another fixed cost that's mentioned here. It says other monthly fixed expenses, meaning that it doesn't matter whether you use the plane or not, you have to pay. Well, that's the same in both cases. All right, that just might be maintenance and the crew. We pay $50,000 a month. Okay, we need to remember that for a little while later. Then we have another column of information here. It says operating costs per ton mile. Well, all right, interesting. Global Freightways can earn $2 per revenue per ton mile on this route and expects to fly the plane loaded in both directions between Singapore and Narita. What does break-even analysis indicate about the two choices of aircraft? And then there's this formula. Oh, let's calculate the break-even point on each of these two aircraft. Why would you want to do that? It may give Global Freightways some insight into, trying to pick between the two. Which one would you pick? Oh, and you see there's a very simple formula here. We just need to fill it out. Now, wait a minute. FC is fixed cost. That was a fixed cost, and this was a fixed cost. So one thing we do need to remember about Global Freightways situation is it's the sum of these two that's actually that fixed cost. The R stands for revenue. Here it's per ton mile. And VC stands for variable cost. See, operating cost per ton mile. That is exactly what that information is. Oh, all right. Then I just need to fill out that formula. Okay. Let's see. 747. Scratch work. The quantity to break even is the fixed cost. All right, the debt payment is 1,367,000 plus tack on that other $50,000. That's the actual overall fixed cost for the Boeing 747. Divided by revenue, it says can earn $2 per ton mile. Okay, $2, that's the revenue per unit, minus variable cost. For the Boeing 747, I see $1.45 per ton mile is the variable cost. Fine. Just do this in your calculator. I did. I get this number 2,576,364. 2,576,364. What on earth actually is that? Ton miles per month. That is the break-even point, first off, for the Boeing 747, right? We just filled out that formula. How did I know to label it ton miles per month? Well, first off, ton miles, if you just look at this scenario, is apparently how we are measuring output of the aircraft. How many tons were carried, how many miles. You can tell that by looking at the variable cost data and the revenue data. Okay, per month, how did we know it was monthly? because the fixed cost information was per month. So what's this mean? It means that if you want to cover the monthly cost of owning a Boeing 747, you've got to fly it around enough such that you have moved 2,576,364 ton miles of freight. You say, oh, okay, is that good or bad? Well, actually, before we move on to that, we better just do that same simple formula for the 777. 777 to break even, okay, somewhat higher debt payment, 1517000, plus I remember to tack on that other 50,000 because that's just the thing going on in this particular scenario. Divided by the revenue is still 2, but in the case of the 777, it is more fuel efficient. Lighter aircraft, $1.38 per ton mile. All right, well, I get 2527419 on my calculator. Same thing, ton miles per month. You say, all right, well, there we did it. We did the break-even analysis on the 2 aircraft. And, okay, and so what does this indicate about the 2 aircraft? Now, first off, just looking at these numbers, it's very natural to say, oh, the break-even point on the Boeing 777 is lower, right? Because we got a smaller number. So, it's true. That's a true statement. So it's then very natural to articulate, oh, well, that means that if you were to purchase the Boeing 777, it would break even sooner. You know, lower break-even point, it would break even sooner. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that because, and this is where, like I said, calculating a break-even point is that simple. What we just did, just fill out the formula. Be careful sometimes interpreting a break-even point because let's think about this. This is a very large number here, you know, for the 747. This is ton miles per month. I'm just curious, how many plain old miles is this? How many miles through the air a month would I have to fly the Boeing 747? Okay, well, I can do some scratch work. How many miles? And I'm asking about the 747. You say, well, how are you supposed to know, like, how many miles? Well, let's start with this. It was a valuable observation. The 2576364, the original break-even point. Take that number and wait a minute. We're talking about the 747. Global Freightways, what did they say? They intend to fly it fully loaded between Tokyo Narita and Singapore Changi Airport. Okay, the Boeing 747-400 carries 124 tons of freight. So if you want to take the ton miles and convert it to assuming that, and they said that's how they were going to use it, that they are loading it full when they fly it, you just divide that 124 into that original great big number and you reveal that they need to fly it over 20,000 fully loaded miles a month. Okay, but it's a big aircraft. We probably could rack up 20,000 miles on the odometer, as opposed to, well, let's just do the same logic for the Boeing 777. Okay, 777. Take the original break-even point, 2527419, which is in that kind of not very intuitive ton miles, and then if it's being flown fully loaded, it is flying 104 tons each mile. Divide 104, and there I get on my calculator 24,302 miles a month. So, you say, well, okay, fine, what's your point? Notice what just happened. Based on the break-even formula, we were ready to say that if you bought, you being Global Freightways, if you bought the 777, you would break even sooner because the break-even point was lower. Now that we have gone ahead and investigated what that actually means in terms of the usage of the assets, we've just reversed our conclusion. Because since the 777 is lower in capacity, you're going to have to fly it more in order to break even. Okay, it's in terms of ton miles, its break-even point is lower, but since it's smaller and not moving as many tons, you're going to have to literally fly it more. And that's just the thing that's going on here with Global Freightways Choice. But this is why we need to be careful about how we actually interpret a break-even point. We can even go one step further, and probably, in order to brief Global Freightways, they would appreciate this. I've got now the overall just number of miles. I noticed that, and again, we're getting into the specifics of the situation, but they've told me how long the trip is. 2,869 nautical miles. And they said that's what they're going to use the aircraft, whichever one that they pick. They're going to fly it on this leg. That leg's that long. Something else we could do before we report to them is just convert it into how many trips. Because I'd say, okay, 747. I now know, now I'm taking the result of this stage of the analysis, 20,777, just divided by a single trip is 2,869 miles long. So the Boeing 747, I get 7.24 trips, Narita to Singapore Changi Airport or back, assuming fully loaded. Now wait, the aircraft, we wouldn't want to do that. We wouldn't want to take it on 0.24 trips and then just leave it there in the air. That's implying we'd actually have to round up that if they want to, they are going to go on complete trips. If they want to break even on the 747, we're just again reformatting the findings that we already had before. But we're revealing that, by the way, if you want to break even on the 747, you're going to have to fly it 8 times between Narita and Singapore Changi Airport, as opposed to, just follow up with the 777. Okay, it needs to fly 24,302 miles a month to break even. The trip length is 2,869. So I'm just curious, 8.47 trips a month. Or, well, you're not going to go on a fractional number of trips. Oh, right. So there we see it again, that the 777, even though originally just the straight out result of the formula indicated it had a lower break-even point, because of its capacity, you're going to have to fly it on one more trip a month between these two particular airports in order to break even on it.